The yellowish light of the late afternoon pierced the tall, stained-glass windows of the mansion like soft blades on the marble floor. The sound of a baby's cry echoed through the corridors decorated with European tapestries, but none of the elite who lived there seemed to listen. Only she, Donna, clutched the vacuum cleaner with one hand, while the other held the scarf that covered her head with a ritual delicacy. That cloth hid more than the strands lost by chemotherapy. She hid wounds, memories, and a strength that even she didn't know she had. No one there knew his full name. For the housekeeper, she was just the new cleaner. For baby Tyler, though, she was warmth, smell of lavender, soft music in the background, the only presence that made him smile since his mother had died. And it was on one of those afternoons, while she was playing on the carpet with the boy, that everything happened. Little Tyler stretched out his chubby little hand and pulled his handkerchief. The wig fell off, revealing the glow of the bare head. The room stopped. The silence was made of wide eyes, breath held. But what no one knew was that that innocent gesture would open doors to truths that were buried, truths that only a cleaning lady would have the courage to clean. But before we dive into the heart of this story, I need you to know one thing. That scarf lying on the floor was just the beginning. What seemed to be a simple gaffe, an embarrassing accident in front of an innocent baby, was actually the first piece of a grim puzzle. Because in the days that followed, Donna would discover wiretaps hidden behind the paintings, hear dangerous whispers coming from inside the kitchen, and stumble upon a missing letter written by a dead woman who still had something to say. There were lies in that house, lies so great that they could destroy fortunes, change wills, and rewrite inheritances. And when the police walked through the iron gates of the mansion, they didn't go to get Donna. It was to protect the baby, because the only person who saw what no one wanted to see, it was that woman in a blue uniform and with a tired look. And if you're here right now, listening to this story, it's because you might also know what it's like to be invisible, what it feels like to keep silence when everything inside you screams. So if this story has touched you in any way, leave your like, subscribe, and stay here with me. It's not just about a cleaning lady, it's about courage. And as far as a woman can go, when you have nothing left to lose. The iron gate creaked slowly, revealing the cobblestone path that led to the main entrance of the Thornhill mansion. Donna stepped off the bus with short strides, carrying her small purse on her back and her shoes already worn across the sidewalks of Yonkers. The morning wind cut through her skin, and even so, she calmly adjusted the scarf that covered her head. The flowery, simple fabric clashed with the quiet elegance of the neighborhood. Scarsdale was no place for people like her. But she wasn't there to be seen. She was there to serve. As he approached, the air seemed to weigh him down. The facade of the house was covered with Greek columns and surrounded by perfectly pruned ivy. Everything was so clean, so symmetrical, so untouchable. That seemed almost false. Donna looked at the reflection of herself in the glass of one of the windows. The image gave him back a woman in a light blue uniform, grimy white sneakers, a face without makeup and sunken eyes, a look that had already seen a lot. The door was opened before she rang the doorbell. "You arrived early," said Patricia, the housekeeper. His voice was dry, punctuated by an accent loaded with superiority. She had her hair tied in a millimetrically aligned bun and held a clipboard as if it were a shield. Donna smiled politely, reaching out her hand. Patricia hesitated a second longer than she should before squeezing it coldly. "Follow me." The marble floor shone like a mirror. Donna walked in silence, looking at the golden paintings on the walls, the crystal lamps, the antique furniture that seemed untouched. The dining room alone had more chairs than her house had square meters. In the kitchen, 3 women prepared breakfast with military precision. None of them greeted her. "You're going to take the rooms on the 2nd floor. "It starts with the east wing," said Patricia. "Oh, and here? It's little Tyler's playroom. When she opened the door, the room lit up with the natural light from the panoramic windows. There were toys everywhere, children's books arranged by color, and in the center of the shag rug, a blonde baby with blue eyes played with a snap-on cube. He must not have been more than a year old. Donna didn't say anything. She just crouched down next to him gently. The boy stared at her for a few seconds, curious, and then he smiled. A smile so pure, so sincere, that it seemed to tear a crack in her chest. Normally he doesn't react like that with strangers, commented a voice behind. It was Cindy, the nanny, young, blonde, dressed in white. Her eyes scanned Donna from head to toe, as if evaluating a non-standard product. Maybe he does, Donna replied in a low voice. Children feel who comes with truth. Cindy arched her eyebrows, annoyed. Patricia, next to her, watched in silence. In the following days, Donna fulfilled her tasks with precision. He washed the imported sheets carefully, vacuumed the Persian rugs as if they were relics, wiped the old furniture with a soft cloth. But it was when I passed by the playroom that the world seemed to stop. Tyler would run up to her, extend his arms, ask for her to be held. And she did, even with pain in my knees, even with fear of getting attached, because there was something about that baby, something that reminded me, yours. She didn't say anything. No one there needed to know his story, of the pain that came every night when she turned off the light in the cramped little room at the back of the house. But everyone noticed. Cindy started to close the door of the playroom when she was with the boy. Patricia began to watch the schedules more strictly, all in silence. And in one of those silences, Donna felt it. That kind of rejection that doesn't need words, that lives in the looks, in the small gestures. She was washing the marble staircase when she heard Patricia whispering on the phone. She's too good. You know how it is. These people get attached easily. Donna paused for a second, wet cloth in hand, and took a deep breath. It was always like this. The cleaner she left the house, she felt dirtier inside. Moment of reflection. How many women have been judged just for existing in silence? How many hold their pain while scrubbing the floor of a house that will never be theirs? She didn't say anything, but inside, screamed. If this touched you, comment there. It touched me. I've lived it. It's true. Because there are stories that we carry in our chests as if they were our own. And that night, when it was past 10 and everyone was asleep, Donna went to the playroom, just to see if Tyler was okay. She slowly approached the crib, saw the baby's eyes open sleepily, and once again he smiled. But there, in the dim light of the room, she didn't know they were already watching. I had no idea how much that innocent smile was about to become the target of jealousy. And that the real danger did not come from the boy. It came from those around him. The dim light of the lamp barely illuminated the cramped room at the back of the mansion. The plaster walls, covered in an antique beige, seemed to suffocate more than to protect. Donna sat on the edge of the twin bed, her knees together, her hands resting on her lap, as if they were still holding the bucket and cloth. The light blue uniform hanging behind the door exuded the acidic smell of industrial disinfectant mixed with the sweet scent of the baby she had carried in her arms. She looked at the nightstand, where a single frame rested, an old, slightly faded photo of a smiling black boy next to a serene-eyed man. The boy was his son, Malik. The man, her husband, David, both dead. A car accident on the way back from a school trip, and she wasn't there. He was in a fast food bathroom, scrubbing the floor for $30 more. She pressed the photo to her chest, closed her eyes, and held back her tears. It was always at night that it hurt the most. When the whole house slept, when there was no broom noise, no dry voices giving orders, no muffled giggles in the hallways. Silence did not bring peace. It brought memories. Donna had been a nurse for 22 years. He knew the sound of a heart monitor as he knew the sound of his own beats. It was at the hospital that she met David, a laboratory technician. They got married, had Malik, and for a while life was good. Simple, tight, but good. Until death came first to get David, a massive heart attack in line at the bank. And then, as if that were not enough, he also took Malik. After that, the house became too small, the shifts too long, and the salary, it was never enough. When the cancer appeared, she was already alone. It had to stop. He sold the furniture, then the books, then the wedding ring. When she found herself without the strength to give herself an injection, she started cleaning houses. But he never told anyone about it. At the Thornhill mansion, she was just the woman who lined up the cutlery and made the floor glow. No one knew that under the scarf, in addition to the bald head, there were deeper scars. Those of the body time healed, those of the soul. She gave it to God. That night he knelt by the bedside and prayed quietly. I know no one sees it, but the Lord sees. Give me just one more day with dignity. Just one more. The words came out with difficulty, as if each one carried the weight of the years she had been fighting in silence. Outside, the wind whistled between the cracks in the window. The noise was the same as in the bedroom of the old apartment, where Malik used to ask for a story before going to sleep. She smiled inside. It was a sad smile, one of those that only a mother knows, and he missed a time that would never return. The cell phone vibrated on the table. An unknown number flashed on the screen, but she did not answer. No one called her after 8 at night. Most people didn't even know it existed. The next day, the clock woke up before sunrise. Donna, dressed in the dark, fastened her scarf more carefully than usual, and hid Malik's picture in the inside pocket of her backpack. I only felt peace when I took him with me. As she left the service corridor, she crossed paths with Cindy, who didn't even look at her. Patricia hurried by, giving orders to a maid. Another day when Donna was invisible, but what no one knew was that inside it, there was a flame that still hadn't gone out, a faith that withstood pain. In the playroom, Tyler was waiting for her. As soon as he saw her, he stretched out his arms and smiled. It was as if that boy knew everything, as if in his little heart he recognized in her a love that no one else offered. Donna took him in her arms, leaned her face against his and whispered, "You're the reason I keep going." But at that moment, he did not see the shadow that formed on the door. Cindy watched it all in silence. Her eyes narrowed and her arms crossed. Something on his face revealed more than simple distrust. It was jealousy. It was anger. It was fear of losing a space that she believed was hers. And it was there, between diapers and stuffed toys, that destiny began to move. Because Donna didn't know yet, but someone was about to turn her from caregiver to culprit. And the first blow would come from where she least expected it. The smell of fresh bread, imported fruit and French coffee mingled with the sweet scent that escaped the fists of the women sitting at the brunch table. The laughter of the elite echoed lightly through the main room, where crystal glasses clinked in discreet toasts and men in suits talked about figures and actions. At the center of it all, Charles Thornhill articulated smiles, received handshakes, and feigned naturalness while balancing the image of a modern heir with that of a recently widowed father. The waiters walked around with trained steps, balancing silver trays, and between them, like an invisible shadow, passed Donna, carrying a damp cloth hidden under the cleaning tray. She shouldn't be there. The social area at that time was the exclusive territory of the events team and the elite present. But when he crossed the corridor, he noticed the stain. A red wine flowed slowly over the light carpet, a dark, deep trail that threatened to mark the Persian fabric forever. Donna hesitated for 2 seconds. He looked to the sides. There was no other employee around. She knew that if she didn't clean it up right away, the stain would fix, and at the end of the day, she would be the one who would hear Patricia's complaints. So, he acted on instinct. He entered with light, almost bent steps, knelt on the side of the table, and with quick, delicate movements, pressed the cloth over the stain before it expanded. It was then that silence fell like a blade. "What is this woman doing here?" Patricia's cutting voice crossed the room like a slap. Everyone turned around. The talk ceased. The sound of the violin in the background seemed to subside on its own. Donna froze, still with the cloth in her hand. Her gaze rose slowly, as if she knew she had crossed an invisible boundary. Patricia walked steadily, her heels echoing over the marble floor. This is no place for a cleaner, Mom. Can't you see that you're in the middle of a private brunch? This is an invasion. The audience of glasses and necklaces watched the scene as if it were theatre. Charles, in the background, held the cup of coffee with his eyes fixed on the scene, but said nothing. Cindy, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed, watched with a crooked smile at the corner of her mouth, as if savouring an announced punishment. Donna tried to get up slowly, with the cloth still wet in her hands. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to prevent the wine. We have trained professionals for this, dear. His place is in the back, not here." The words were spoken coldly, but the tone carried something deeper, contempt, and the silence that followed was crueler than any direct offense. Donna lowered her head. He took a deep breath. He didn't cry. He just swallowed hard and walked back down the same corridor he came from, listening to the faint rumble that spread behind him like poison. In the back toilet, he washed his hands slowly. The dirty cloth still dripped into the white sink. She looked at the reflection in the mirror and saw more than his face. She saw the scars of life, the repeated injustice, the unrecognized effort, the dignity. It seemed to flow along with the water, but she didn't let herself fall apart. Back in the service corridor, a young maid approached with downcast eyes. "I saw what they did. You didn't deserve that." Donna just smiled. A small, bitter smile, the kind of smile that only exists not to cry. And in that moment, alone in a forgotten corner of the house, she understood. There, in that place where everything was impeccable on the outside, the most dangerous dirt was not the one she cleaned. It was the one that hid behind the beautiful words, the expensive clothes, the unspoken rules that put some above others. And a question began to echo inside her, silent but strong as a drum beat. How long would she bear to swallow everything quietly? Because deep down something told him that humiliation, it was not yet the worst. The soft afternoon light poured in golden beams through the window of the playroom, painting the floor with delicate shadows. Donna sat on the carpet, her legs bent at her sides, while little Tyler played with his colourful blocks, laughing between babblings and screams. The sound of his laughter was like music. That corner of the house, where the furniture was small and the walls had drawings of clouds and little planes, was the only place where she could breathe peacefully. She softly hummed an old song, a melody she had learned from her mother and that used to lull her son Malik on cold Yonkers nights. The words came out soft, almost like whispers. "Sleep, my angel, because the world outside still doesn't know who you are." Tyler, delighted, approached. He crawled to her lap and snuggled up, his eyes half closed with sleep. With one of her small, chubby hands, she grabbed Donna's handkerchief and, in an innocent gesture, pulled it out. It was fast. The handkerchief fell to the floor. The wig slid along, revealing the bald, smooth head, marked by chemotherapy sessions. The baby widened his eyes for a moment, then smiled, not understanding anything, as if to say it made no difference. But on the other side of the door, hidden behind the bookshelf, was Cindy, with the cell phone in his hands, recording everything. The camera click was confused with the sound of a piece of wood falling to the ground. Donna turned her face quickly, instinctively, the scarf in his hands, the wig lying next to him. Moist eyes. Cindy said nothing. He just turned his back with a satisfied smile and disappeared down the corridor. That night, the video circulated in the group of employees of the mansion. No caption, no explanation, no context. Just the image of a black cleaning lady, bald, with the baby of the house in her arms. The messages came in sequence. Is she sick? This is dangerous for children, isn't it? Imagine if it's contagious. Donna learned about the video from the maid. The girl entered the back room with her eyes downcast, her hands trembling. I thought you had a right to know. Donna saw the video, and at that moment, the ground seemed to disappear. Patricia appeared at the door 30 minutes later, accompanied by 2 discreet security guards. Mr. Thornhill has been informed. Until the situation is investigated, you are suspended from your duties. No remuneration. I didn't do anything wrong. We're not saying he did, but frankly, hiding a medical condition in this environment, it is not acceptable. Donna did not answer. He just lowered his eyes, took his bag, and walked in silence to the back exit. He passed through the garden without looking around, feeling the weight on his shoulders, as if each step was a sentence. From the top of the balcony, Charles watched everything. He didn't say a word. On the bus back, Donna sat on the last seat near the window. The sun was already beginning to set. She leaned her head against the icy glass and felt the tears flow silently. He didn't just cry for the injustice. She cried for everything that scarf drop meant. The mask had fallen. The scarf was more than fabric. It was protection against judgment, the shield against stares. And now she was exposed. She followed in silence, carrying that weight that no one saw. And if you're following this story right now, feeling touched by all this, leave a like and subscribe. It is the most beautiful way to show that this pain has not gone unnoticed, that her story is being felt. At the door of the small rented apartment, Donna took a deep breath before entering. He took off his shoes slowly, as if he avoided waking up a pain. In the corner of the room, Malik's photo seemed to observe her. She knelt right there, in front of the portrait, and closed her eyes. God, if this fight isn't over yet, it gives me the strength to keep standing. Outside, the wind was blowing on the windows, and somewhere in that mansion, Cindy smiled contentedly, believing that she had won. But what she didn't know, the truth, no matter how silent, always finds a way to be heard. And that recording, it hid much more than it seemed. The sky was already beginning to darken when Donna discreetly returned to the mansion. The housekeeper had told her to leave, to wait at home until everything was resolved. But something inside her, an old voice she had learned to hear in the most difficult moments, whispered that she couldn't leave without at least saying goodbye to Tyler. My heart tightened, just imagining that confused baby looking for her the next day, her arms outstretched in the air and no one to welcome. The idea of leaving it like this, it hurt more than injustice. With light steps, she entered from the side of the house, where the service door was rarely locked. He knew the schedules of the routine as someone who knows the beating of his own heart. The babysitter change shift always took place at 6. It was between moments of passage that the house relaxed. She walked through the laundry room in silence, crossed the marble hallway, and climbed the stairs through the employee entrance. The second-floor hallway was empty. Soft lights, absolute silence. Donna entered Tyler's room as if she were entering a church. The baby slept in the crib, with his little hand closed, hugging a small rag doll that she herself had patched days before. The baby monitor's light flashed in the corner of the shelf, emitting a low hiss, as if breathing along with the room. Donna came over, knelt beside the crib, and lightly stroked Tyler's little foot, uncovered. His eyes watered. "Forgive me, Angel," but it was at that moment that she heard it. A click, followed by 2 muffled voices coming from the device. She looked at the baby monitor. It was a model with a microphone and receiver in real time. Someone was speaking on the other side. Patricia's voice came first, firm, annoyed. "Do you have any idea of the risk we are taking if that letter appears?" Then Cindy's voice, loaded with tension. "I have already said that the fire was cleared. There was not even a trace left in Amanda's room. But Charles has been messing with her things. If he finds that letter, he will understand everything. Amanda didn't want him to have full custody. She knew what he was capable of." Donna froze. Amanda, Tyler's mother. They were talking about the dead woman and a letter, a document that if it arrived in the wrong hands would change everything. If this letter falls into his hands, goodbye bonuses, goodbye agreement. Amanda suspected that he was involved in that overdose. She just didn't have time to prove it. Patricia continued, her voice getting lower and lower, more nervous. Donna covered her mouth with her hand. A chill ran down his spine. There was more dirt in that house than in the floor she scrubbed. She got up slowly, without making a sound, and left the room as if the floor were made of glass. He walked through the back, crossed the outer corridor, and headed towards the house's greenhouse, a glass and wooden room at the back of the lot, forgotten by time, where plants, old pots, and gardening tools were kept. Inside, the smell of wet earth and dry leaves filled the air. It was humid, silent, and almost always empty. Donna knew no one had been there for weeks. He hid behind a table covered with bags of dirt and old watering cans. He sat on a sack of sawdust, breathing slowly, his eyes fixed on the glass wall that reflected his own face, tired but now lit by something new, purpose. He could no longer leave that house, not yet, not after what he had heard. The letter, Amanda's secret, the risk with Tyler, everything swirled in his head like a hurricane. She didn't know exactly what that letter said, but one thing was certain. There was more truth in the dirty corners of that mansion than in the luxurious carpets in the great hall. And for the first time in a long time, Donna didn't just want to survive. She wanted to know. I wanted to protect. He wanted justice. The cleaning cloth was still tied to the strap of his bag. She squeezed him between her fingers, as if she were also squeezing her own courage. That night, lying on a floor of cold earth and shadows, the woman everyone ignored decided to face something much bigger than herself. And what would she discover? It was capable of destroying an entire family. But where, after all, was this letter hidden? And why did Amanda never manage to deliver her in life? The mansion slept under the veil of night, but the library was still breathing. The dark wood bookshelves kept secrets in gilded spines, while the sand-blasted glass lampshade cast an amber light on the leather armchair. Charles Thornhill sat there, with a glass of whiskey in his hand, his eyes lost in a dimmed fireplace. It was rare to see him like this, without the armor of authority, without the rehearsed smiles. He didn't know he wasn't alone. Donna watched from the half-open door. Her body still trembled from everything she had heard on the baby monitor. His heart was still beating on alert for having hidden for hours in the greenhouse. But at that moment, the pain was greater than the fear, and it was the pain that made her take the first step. Charles became aware of her presence only when she crossed the line of light. He jumped to his feet, his voice hard. "What are you doing here? You should have left." "I heard, Mr. Thornhill." He frowned. "What?" The conversation about his wife's letter. Charles froze. "What conversation?" Donna took a deep breath. It wasn't easy. Each word seemed to cross a wall that life had erected between her and the powerful. But she had gone too far to retreat. "They were in the baby's room. I just wanted to say goodbye to Tyler, but the baby monitor was on. I listened to Patricia and Cindy. They talked about the letter. They said that Amanda was suspicious, that you could be involved in the overdose." He stared at her in silence, the glass still in his hand. "They said that the letter would change everything, that it could not fall into their hands. They said that Amanda was afraid." Charles approached slowly. The hard countenance began to unravel, like an old facade that cracks before the truth. "Amanda, he was always afraid of something. But he never told me what it was." He sat in the armchair with the weight of someone who had just been punched in the chest. "She had been nervous in recent weeks. I thought it was motherhood, the mourning for my career, the crises, but now everything looks different." Donna remained standing, still with his hands clasped together, still with his handkerchief untidy over his head. "I'm not lying, sir. I wouldn't gain anything from it. He just wanted to take care of his son. I just wanted to work in peace. But after what I heard, I can't walk away like nothing happened." Charles looked up. For the first time, he saw that woman beyond the uniform. He saw the pain on her face, the sincerity in her eyes. If such a letter exists, if Amanda really left something in writing, that changes everything. Donna nodded. "I can help you find it, but I don't know where to start." He stood up. He ran his hand through his hair and walked to the fireplace. He stood there for a few seconds, in silence. Amanda had diaries. One of them disappeared after the funeral. They said she burned him weeks before she died, but Amanda never destroyed anything. She kept everything. Maybe she left something hidden. This house has a lot of hiding places, Donna, some that I don't even know. It was there, between those walls surrounded by secrets and old books, that the most unlikely alliance was born, between a millionaire and his cleaning lady. Two worlds that should never intersect, united by a buried truth. "If I help you," Charles said, staring her in the eyes, "you need to promise me that you'll be discreet, and that if you find anything, will show me first." Donna nodded. "I just want to protect that boy." He lowered his eyes, touched. "And I want to understand what really happened to Amanda." At that moment, the library seemed to breathe along with the two of them. For the first time, Donna didn't feel invisible. And if you've come this far feeling this story in your chest, I need to tell you, what's to come is stronger than anything that has ever been told. Because when the truth begins to emerge, no one comes out unscathed. Charles opened a secret drawer on the sideboard on the wall and pulled out an old set of keys. "There's a locked attic in this house. It is behind the wall of the guest room. Amanda used to spend hours inside." Donna took the key with trembling hands. "And you never entered? Not after her death? Era too painful." They stared at each other. For a moment, they looked like two survivors of the same shipwreck, still trying to understand how they were still alive. And there, among the smell of whiskey and aged wood, a silent pact was born. But what would they find in that attic? It was more disturbing than any of them were prepared to see. The light rain pounded against the tall windows of the Thornhill mansion, while the garden seemed to sink into a heavy silence. Donna returned that day with a grey jumpsuit and a fake badge from a heating maintenance company. The hood hid her face, but her heart was exposed, beating hard, out of step, as if every step through the corridors of that rich house was a leap into the unknown. With the help of Leo, a young man from the maintenance sector who worked underground and knew her from day one, she gained access to Amanda Bell's old room. The environment had been closed since the actress's death, preserved as a time capsule, where nothing had been removed without Charles's direct authorization. The key turned with difficulty. The door opened with a long creak, as if the house itself resisted anyone's return. Donna entered, smelling the dust mixed with the floral perfume that still lived there, trapped in the heavy fabrics of the curtain. The room was large, elegant, and sad. The walls were shades of pale blue, and on the dressing table rested a brush with golden threads still attached to the bristles. She ran her fingers over the surface of the wood, as if asking permission. Every detail in that space told an interrupted story. She rummaged through drawers, pulled out cushions, opened jewelry boxes and closet doors. Nothing. That was when, as she moved a row of long dresses leaning against the back of her wardrobe, she noticed a small wooden box, with no visible zippers, hidden behind a loose structure. With trembling hands, he pulled the box out and opened it. Inside, there was a photograph of Amanda holding Tyler in her lap, but what caught Donna's breath was the envelope below the photo, thick, sealed with a red stamp, and the word "confidential" in high relief. Charles's name was handwritten on the back. Donna's heart seemed to scream in her chest. She grabbed the envelope and tucked it under her coat, covering it with her own body. I needed to get out of there. I needed to deliver it into the right hands. But as he turned around, he heard the dry click of the door. Cindy was there, with his arms crossed, his eyes narrow as razors. "I knew it. I knew you were nosy." Donna ran to the door, tried to turn the handle, but it had already been locked from the outside. "You don't have the right," Donna began, panting. "And you do. A cleaning lady rummaging through a dead woman's things? Do you really think you can get involved in matters that are not yours?" Cindy disappeared into the hallway, taking with her the metallic noise of the key. Donna stood there, locked, with the envelope still hidden, but when he looked inside his coat, the envelope was gone. The box was still on the floor, the photo intact, but the letter had disappeared. It was as if hope had evaporated at the same instant. She sank to the floor of the room, her body hunched, her eyes lost. And it was in that moment of silence, in that point where everything seemed to have fallen apart once again, that a truth formed within her. slow, painful, but incontrovertible. Sometimes the world chooses to silence precisely those who have something important to say the most. And there are pains that we can't explain with words, only with silence or with tears. If this touched you in any way, if you've ever felt trapped in a place with no way out, comment here. It just says, "I understand," or "I've been through this," because there are stories that we can't carry alone. But Donna didn't cry. She stood up, wiped her hands on her pants, and looked at the old mirror on the wall. There reflected more than his tired face. It reflected a woman who was about to go all the way. And what would she do from that moment on? Would change the fate of that house forever. But the question that kept in her mind was, who took the letter? And why would anyone be so afraid of what was written there? The next morning dawned laden with fog. The Thornhill mansion, with its lofty columns and blackout windows, looked colder than ever. Inside the house, Charles paced back and forth in his office, holding a leather briefcase brought by Patricia. She spoke firmly, her eyes fixed on his face, as if reciting a rehearsed text. "Mr. Thornhill, we found this in the security room," he said, placing some printed pictures and a USB stick on the table. The cleaning lady not only broke into his late wife's room, but was also in possession of confidential documents. And according to our lawyers, this may constitute blackmail. Charles picked up the papers with hesitant hands. The images showed Donna standing in Amanda's old room, opening a box, rummaging through drawers. The angles were distorted, but sharp enough. Patricia continued, "And there's something else. An audio captured last night. She would have told Leo, that maintenance guy, that she could make money with what she found. This is not just an invasion of privacy. It is a crime." "Donna would never ask me for anything," Charles murmured, incredulous, almost trying to convince himself. "With all due respect, sir," Patricia cut in a sweeter, more venomous voice, "people like that learn to manipulate with their eyes. You are a generous man, but you need to think about Tyler." It was these words that brought him down. A few hours later, Donna was called to the mansion's concierge. They didn't even allow her to enter. A security guard handed him a formal envelope and a letter signed by Charles. For reasons related to the safety of the family and the private property of the residents, its service provision is terminated with immediate effect. We request that you keep a legal distance from the property. She read each line as if trying to breathe underwater. His hands trembled. There was no explanation, no chance of defense, no voice to listen to her. The pain came like a dark wave, dragging everything. She took the bus back to Yonkers with her eyes fixed on the dirty window. Every grey building on the path seemed to mock his hope. In the small one-room apartment, Donna sat on the kitchen floor. He didn't turn on the light. Silence was more honest than any words. The portable radio, forgotten on the table, played an old song that she and Malik listened to together. She leaned her head against the wall and let the tears fall uncontrollably. He prayed quietly, in whispers, as if asking for forgiveness, for still having faith. "Show me, God. Show me what to do, because I don't know anymore." In the corner of the room, a box with the hospital's exams was still waiting to be opened. The treatment was stopped. The money had run out. And now, so does employment. Everything about her hurt, but what hurt the most, it was absence. The absence of a clean name, of true listening. Someone who said, "I believe in you." Far away in the mansion, Tyler woke up restless. He called for someone who did not come. The official nanny tried to distract him with new toys, but he pushed everything away. In the crib, he rolled to the edge, his eyes wet, repeating the name he still knew how to babble, Donna. And in the midst of the pain that took over the screen, a silent truth was present. Sometimes, what most destroys a person is not the cry of injustice. It is the silence of those who could defend it. How many times does this happen? In how many stories that no one sees? Night fell on Yonkers with the weight of a stone. Donna sat in the same place for hours. But fate, however cruel, is never completely quiet. And while she sank into the depths of her despair, on the other side of town, someone watched the previous day's recording again. A blurry image, a forgotten detail, and something was about to be discovered, something that could turn everything around. But was there still time to save what was lost? The yellowish light of the hallway barely illuminated the worn wooden floor. The sound of raindrops on the railing was Donna's only companion on that aimless night. Sitting on the edge of the bed, her body hunched by the weariness of her soul, she thought of Tyler, in the boy's look of fright when he sees her leave, in the cold silence that Charles had chosen over trust, in the world that was closing again, as it always did with those who came from below. A light knock on the door interrupted the flow of thoughts. 3 dry touches. Cautious, Donna stood up, with her heart racing, drying her eyes with the back of her hand. When he opened the door, he found Enrique. He wore a shabby coat and carried a rain-soaked cap in his hands. The dark eyes, always low and humble, now stared at hers with a different urgency. "I'm sorry to come like this. So late." "Enrique, I waited for it to get dark. No one saw me leave." Donna made room, and he entered slowly, as if that small apartment was a sanctuary. I heard things that night. Patricia and Cindy. They were talking too loudly in the garden, thinking that no one was listening. I was behind the greenhouse. Donna was silent, her heart already starting to beat faster. They said they needed to get rid of the letter, that you were too close, that they couldn't let Charles find out. She approached, her eyes wide. "Did you see where they hid it?" Enrique hesitated. "Then later I saw Cindy with a blue box. One of those old toy ones, you know. She went down with her to the basement of the east wing, the part that is only used in winter when the generator heats the pipes." Donna put her hand to her chest. It was as if a door had been ajar in the dark. "Why are you telling me that?" He looked at her with a sad smile. "Because you didn't let them accuse me when that clock disappeared from the living room. I saw you bus Patricia for me." She remembered. "And also because Tyler cries all day." The house is heavy, as if something bad was growing inside. Donna sat up, her head spinning with the avalanche of information. "The letter may still be there. If you're going to move, it needs to be fast. Patricia is traveling with Charles for 2 days, but Cindy is still there with the baby." A plan began to form, fragile as a sewing thread, but all it took was a spark of courage to stitch it all over again. And it was there, between 2 cups of warm tea and the sound of the rain outside, that Donna rediscovered a strength she thought she had lost. Because sometimes help comes from where we least expect it. And if this piece of my life can become a mirror or a hug for someone, help me carry it forward. Like and subscribe here to the channel. It makes more difference than you think. Donna stood up. She walked to the closet drawer, took the blue scarf, and tied it tightly around her head. The reflection in the mirror was no longer just that of a cleaning lady. It was from a woman on a mission. "I'll be back, but not to clean floors." Enrique smiled. "I enter through the back garden. I'll let you know when it's safe." The two looked at each other with complicity, united by losses, invisibilities, and unspoken promises. The city was still sleeping, but something new was already pulsating in the night. And when Donna set foot on the wet sidewalk, it wasn't just rainwater that ran down her face. It was the certainty that the reunion with that letter, it was closer than ever. But would they be able to get to her before Cindy discovered the plan? The dawn dragged on, thick as fog, when Donna set foot again on the edge of Thornhill Manor. She wore a white coat and carried a first aid kit, courtesy of her old friend Lucia, a retired nurse who agreed to help her with no questions asked. The plan was simple but risky. Lucia would pretend to be in charge of administering an urgent medication to one of the Thornhill's elderly neighbors who was spending time in one of the estate's cottages, while Donna infiltrated the back, guided by Enrique. The gardener was waiting for her by the old iron gate of the greenhouse, his eyes attentive and his face hidden under his hood. "This way. It moves fast." They followed through the shadows of the flower beds, dodging the cameras that Enrique knew by heart. The smell of wet grass and scrambled earth filled the air. The cold wind cut like a blade, but Donna was steadfast. They passed the side of the garden, crossed a fence covered by vines, and then reached the maintenance entrance that led straight to the basement of the east wing. There, everything was darker, older. The smell of mold and damp wood seemed to have settled years ago. The ground creaked underfoot. The walls were narrow, with exposed plumbing and rusty toolboxes. The only light came from a small lantern that Enrique handed over before retreating, watching the way outside. Donna walked slowly, her eyes attentive to every detail. The boxes were stacked on a metal shelf in the far corner of the basement. She knelt before them, running her fingers over nearly erased labels. Christmas 2005, Amanda Books, Tyler's Stuff. That was it. A blue plastic box with a slightly cracked lid. She pulled carefully, her heart punching her chest hard. When he opened it, the world stopped. There was the envelope with the stamp "Confidential" and Charles's name written by hand. But there was more. An old cassette recorder. Donna picked up the device carefully. It was heavy with marks of time and dust. A folded note was pinned to the side, with Amanda's delicate handwriting. "If something happens to me, show it to anyone who dares to listen." Donna closed her eyes. He felt the presence of that woman he had never met, but whose pain now seemed to pulsate in the walls of that house. A noise woke her up. Steps, light but firm, muffled voices. She grabbed the envelope and tape recorder, pressing them to her chest. His eyes desperately searched for a way out. And then he remembered. The old maintenance tunnel that passed under the house, used years earlier by renovation workers. Ran. The boxes fell behind her. The lantern swung in his hand like a pendulum of despair. He entered the tunnel, lowering his head and advancing through cobwebs and icy tubes. His breath was short, the air almost unbreathable, but she didn't stop. Minutes later, he came out of the trapdoor hidden at the back of the land near the vegetable garden. Enrique pulled her hard, and together they crossed the garden back. When he reached the gate, his legs no longer obeyed. There, in front of the empty street, the dawn wind, and the world that seemed indifferent, Donna fell to her knees. The letter was still in his hands, the recorder too. She pressed them to her chest and cried. But that was not a cry of defeat. It was the silent cry of someone who, even crushed by so much pain, finally held in her hands a truth capable of changing everything. And if you've made it this far, listening to every bit of this story, know there's still something much stronger to come. Because it has secrets that, when revealed, no longer allow anyone to close their eyes. But what did Amanda say on that tape? And why was she so afraid to entrust this to someone in life? The silence of Donna's small apartment was so dense that you could hear the ticking of the wall clock like a war drum. The letter rested on the wooden table stained with old coffee, folded carefully as if it contained not just words, but a lifetime screaming for justice. Donna took a deep breath. His hands were still shaking, but now there was firmness in his eyes. He picked up the envelope again, broke the seal gently, and began to read. To whoever finds this letter, please don't let me disappear quietly. Amanda's handwriting was firm, but stained in some passages, as if it had been written between tears or in a hurry. In the following pages, Donna's world was turned upside down. Amanda described strange symptoms she had been experiencing in the last months of her life. Dizziness, constant nausea, muscle weakness, all always followed by medicines administered by Cindy or a special tea delivered by Patricia. She had written, "I suspect that it is not a disease. It's something that they put me to little by little. I feel like they're trying to shut me up slowly, and the reason, it's Tyler." Donna pursed her lips. His chest rose and fell at an uneven pace. He turned the page. Amanda reported that she discovered suspicious movements in the will, Patricia and Cindy had convinced Charles to sign powers of attorney and documents, while Amanda was still recovering from childbirth. They claimed to help, but they had other plans. Amanda, a famous actress but a simple woman behind the scenes, began to investigate, and what she found put her on alert. Doctored documents, changed medicines, and even a strange clause that provided for the delivery of Tyler's custody to the guardianship of a legal assistant if Amanda and Charles were incapacitated. That assistant? Patricia. But the letter was not just that. On the last sheet, Amanda pleaded, "If this letter has reached you, and if there is still time, please protect my son. If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Donna stood up, sweaty hands, the heart in pieces, but it was in the voice that echoed from the old recorder that the final confirmation would come. She put the tape on the device. The tape sizzled, and then Amanda's voice emerged, weak but clear. "My name is Amanda Bell. This is my last attempt. I feel like they're erasing me, day after day. If Charles hears this, know it. It's not your fault. You trusted those around you too much. And if that audio is found by someone else, please turn in the truth. My son's future depends on it. If something happens to me, it was not an accident." Donna closed her eyes. A tear flowed silently. For a few seconds she just stood there, hearing the echo of that woman, feeling the weight of each word, as if Amanda spoke directly to her. It was as if the pains of two women, one alive, one dead, met in that room. She then pulled out her phone, plugged in a small adapter, and began digitally recording the audio from the tape. Then he photographed each page of the letter, saved everything on an old pen drive. The tables had turned. She was no longer just a cleaner. He had in his hands the proof of a crime, and when he looked at the broken mirror on the wall, he saw a tired but different face. For the first time, there was something there besides pain. It was courage. The story was about to explode. But would the world believe her? Before those who had so much to lose found out what she knew. The Scarsdale police station building was simple, with reddish bricks and small windows covered with metal shutters. Donna took a deep breath before walking through those doors. He had his blue scarf tightly fitted on his head, his second-hand coat buttoned up to his neck, and a shabby plastic briefcase under his arm. The cold was cutting, but what trembled the most was not the body. It was the soul, because to enter, there was not only to deliver evidence, it was also to deliver what was left of peace itself. On the other side of the counter, an attendant with a dry voice asked his name. Donna responded firmly, but without raising her tone. Minutes later, she was led to a room at the end of the hallway, where Detective Lawson was waiting. She didn't know what to expect. She imagined someone impatient, perhaps arrogant, like so many who had already ignored her in other offices, markets, buses, sidewalks. But what he found was different. Lawson was a grey-haired man, tired-looking, but attentive. Former New York City police officer transferred to the countryside after a mild stroke. His speech was paused, as if chewing every word. At first, he looked at the cleaning lady with a certain distance. When she opened the folder and placed on the table the copies of the letter, the digitized audios, and the written account with all the details, he raised an eyebrow. "Can you tell me again, where did you get all this from?" Donna said. Not in a hurry, but with precision. He described the night of the wig incident, the moment he overheard the conversation through the baby monitor, the discovery of the hidden letter, the alliance with Enrique, the infiltration of the mansion, and finally, the contents of the letter and Amanda's recording. With each sentence, Lawson adjusted his body in the chair. At the end, he was silent for almost a full minute. Then he took a small tape recorder and turned it on. "Your full name, please," Donna replied. "Are you aware that what you are reporting may constitute attempted aggravated homicide?" She nodded, unblinking. "And that, by denouncing this, you can put your life at risk. No more than they already put mine when they took everything from me. My husband, my son, My dignity. She stared at the detective. I have nothing more to lose, sir. Lawson took a deep breath. He turned off the recorder. He called another agent, handed over part of the documents, and ordered formal copies to be made. Then he asked Donna to wait. The room was silent except for the noise of the clock. It was almost 40 minutes before he returned, with a more closed countenance. We are cross-checking the information. There are 3 old complaints against Patricia Langford, the housekeeper. None took it to trial. In one, an 84-year-old woman accused her of manipulating her medications at a nursing home in Albany. In another, a nanny recorded that Patricia coerced her to sign a custody document. But everything was hushed up. Donna lowered her eyes, but not in defeat, in confirmation. That's it. They have been doing this for years. The prosecution wants secrecy. If this is confirmed, we are talking about attempted murder, testamentary fraud, and conspiracy to embezzle inheritance. It's a big thing. He paused. Then he stared at Donna again. We're going to need you to testify. Officially. She felt the ground vibrate underfoot. For the first time, his name, his story, his pain. They were going to be heard by someone with the power to change things, and in that instant, something changed inside. She was no longer just a cleaning lady asking for help. She was a woman denouncing an empire of abuse. The testimony took hours. Details, dates, names, descriptions, everything was recorded. Donna kept her cool the entire time. When Lawson asked how she had managed to gather so much evidence without training, she replied without hesitation, because he who cleans sees. Who no one sees, listen to everything. He didn't say anything, but the silence was respectful. When he left the room, it was already night. The sky at Scarsdale was clear, with stars that seemed to breathe with her. Enrique waited in the car, nervous. When he saw Donna leave, he ran to her. And then, she just smiled. Now it's not just me who knows the truth. And if there's one thing you need to understand in this story, sometimes it only takes an invisible person to have courage to dismantle a giant's castle. But would the truth be enough before the powerful decided to shut her up for good? The garden of the Thornhill mansion has never been so illuminated. Blue balloons, tables with embroidered tablecloths, arrangements of white roses, waiters with silver trays balancing champagne glasses. Tyler's 2-year birthday felt more like a celebration of the county's aristocracy than a small boy's party. Local journalists took pictures, wealthy families smiled for cameras, and Patricia paraded among the guests as if she owned the property. Cindy, in a beige silk dress and high heels, held Tyler on her lap, forcing smiles into the flashes. It was the perfect spectacle, or almost. Donna arrived through the side gate, led discreetly by a plainclothes officer. She wore a simple, dark blue dress, which contrasted with the ostentatious brightness of the event, but perfectly matched her posture, dignified, serene, unshakable. The eyes of some guests turned in her direction, not out of recognition, but out of strangeness. For many there she was just the cleaning lady, but she walked with her chest held high. She knew that on that day she would be heard. Charles, nervous, received an envelope in the hands of one of the undercover officers. At first he hesitated to open it, as if he feared that the truth would come out of the paper like a poisonous snake. But his eyes scanned the contents quickly, documents, transcripts, dates, audios. And then his expression changed. The man, until then apathetic and accommodating, woke up. Without warning, Charles grabbed the microphone from the center stage, interrupting the band. The music stopped. The guests turned around, still smiling, unaware that they were about to witness the collapse of a hoax. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to celebrate my son's birthday, I need to share something with all of you. The whispers began. 2 years ago, Amanda Bell, my wife, died in circumstances that many believed to be natural, but they were not. He held up a small flash drive. This is her voice. The recording began to play on the center speaker. Amanda's weak voice echoed through the garden with the same force as a storm. If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident. The silence was absolute. The mothers held their children in their arms. The photographers stopped clicking. Cindy, pale, grabbed Tyler like a shield. Patricia froze. Amanda continued, her voice getting weaker and weaker but accurate. He spoke of exchanged medicines, manipulation, betrayal. When the recording ended, no one moved for a few seconds. Charles, teary-eyed, turned to Patricia. "Do you have anything to say?" Patricia tried to smile. "Charles, you're being manipulated by—" "You are under arrest," said the plainclothes officer, who at that moment revealed the badge and placed his hands on her shoulders. Patricia broke free, tripped in the jump, tried to run towards the side of the mansion. 2 agents intercepted her before she reached the steps. Cindy started screaming, out of control. "That's a lie!" She was unstable. Amanda was paranoid. An officer approached her as well. Cindy let go of Tyler, who ran desperately to the middle of the garden. Donna, without thinking, bent down and took him into her arms. The boy cried, and his face hid around her neck as if finding home again. The crowd walked away slowly, astonished, as if they had just watched a tragic real-life play. Charles walked to Donna. She saw the boy in her arms. The look between the two was charged with something that no words could explain. Loss, guilt, gratitude, relief. "Thank you for not giving up," he said, almost in a whisper. Donna just shook her head. His eyes were full, but his body remained steady. That tear that flowed was not of pain. It was the end of a cycle of silence. It was the recognition that the truth, even choked for so long, had finally found a voice. And as guests left the room in silence and reporters rushed to report on the Westchester elite scandal, Donna stood there with Tyler asleep in her arms, watching the sky. But the truth, as liberating as it was, had not yet said its last word. What else did that will hide? The scandal spread like wildfire on dry paper. The headlines invaded local newspapers and gained prominence on social networks. Thornhill Manor Secret, the cleaning ladies who unmasked the conspiracy. It was as if suddenly the spotlight had turned to that woman whom, until then, no one had seen. But Donna didn't smile at fame. That was not what she wanted. What she wanted, and always wanted, was justice. And justice began to be done. Patricia was taken to Westchester Courthouse in an escorted van, his face hidden by sunglasses and a silk scarf, as if still trying to maintain his pose, even in the face of collapse. But the documents were incontestable. The prosecution presented evidence of manipulation of medicines, tampering with a will, and attempted murder. A judge ordered his pre-trial detention without the right to bail. The woman who ran the house with an iron fist now trembled behind the bars of an ordinary cell where her name meant nothing. Cindy couldn't bear the weight. During the interrogation, he screamed, cried, pulled out his hair, accused voices that no one heard. The police interrupted the session and called a psychiatrist. Hours later, she was admitted to a clinic in White Plains. It was the end of a woman who fed on control, and who, when she lost dominance, also lost her sanity. Charles watched everything in silence. A recluse, he fired the legal team he had hired and broke with all the financial advisors appointed by Patricia. He gave an interview to the press, visibly dejected. "I ignored signs that shouldn't be ignored. I walked away from Amanda when she needed me the most, and I closed my eyes to what was before my eyes. It was the cleaning lady in my house, a woman many here despised, who had the courage I didn't have. The cameras recorded the speech, but it was the next image that stopped hearts. While Charles cried discreetly, Tyler ran through the flashes, running away from the temporary nanny and jumping into the arms of Donna, who watched from afar. The child, confused and frightened by the presence of the press, squeezed her neck with her thin arms and said loudly for everyone to hear, "Mom!" The world stopped at that second. The silence is broken only by the simultaneous click of dozens of cameras. The scene went viral, but for Donna there was no euphoria, just a serene, deep emotion that came from the guts. There was no more applause that mattered. There, in the middle of a garden now stained by exposed secrets, she found what she didn't even know she was looking for: belonging. After that, the press started to follow her. Reporters tried to get interviews, broadcasters offered invitations to TV programs. But Donna turned them all down. She didn't want a stage. He wanted peace. She returned to her apartment in Yonkers, where the neighborhood now greeted her with respect. Children clapped their hands when she passed. Some adults were ashamed that they had ignored his presence for so long. Even so, she didn't get carried away by the moment. The headscarf was still there, not out of shame, but as a symbol. That was part of who she had become, a woman marked but not vanquished. And if you've come this far listening to this story, with a heavy heart or teary eyes, I need to tell you something. There are things that we live and keep, but maybe by telling, we help another heart to breathe. Enjoy this video and subscribe, and let's make this story reach those who need it, because sometimes a truth told can save someone who no longer believed in hope. Even as the chaos dissolved, something inside Donna still throbbed. There was a piece of history that wasn't complete, a detail in Amanda's voice, a whispered word in the recording, a name that appeared between sentences as if to be remembered. Were there even more secrets hidden in that will? The late afternoon breeze blew lightly through the trees in the back garden of the Thornhill mansion. The sky, tinged with orange and pink, seemed to whisper that something new was coming. Donna sat in the wicker chair on the side porch, not knowing what to expect from this unexpected invitation. Charles had asked to meet her there, without formalities, without haste. When he arrived, he was not wearing a suit or carrying documents, just a sincere, almost embarrassed expression. He sat next to her with a glass of iced tea in his hand and a different, more human look. "Donna, I don't even know where to start," he said, looking at his own hands. "But if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's just that the most valuable people in our lives don't always walk through front doors." Donna remained silent, respectful, as always. But inside her, her heart was racing. It wasn't fear, it was the weight of the unexpected. Charles took a deep breath and continued. "Since Amanda died, I couldn't trust anyone else. And even though you had no obligation, you were the only one who didn't turn your back on me. You protected Tyler when even I couldn't, and I don't want him to grow away from you." He then took out of his pocket a small envelope. Inside were papers, keys, and a signed contract. "I want to offer you something different. Not just his official position as caretaker, but a house, here, at the back of the property. It's not charity, Donna. It's trust. It's family." She held the envelope with trembling hands. He looked at Charles as if he still doubted reality. "And the treatment," she whispered almost without courage. "It's already scheduled, with an oncologist in Manhattan. I'll cover everything. What's more, you'll have complete access to the best team. Not because you saved my son, but because you saved me too." That night, alone in the new room of the small house that Charles had renovated for her, with light curtains, an old radio, and a blue armchair like the one she had lost years ago, Donna broke down in tears. But it was a different cry. Not sore, not broken. It was a cry of relief, of a new beginning, as if each tear washed not only the eyes, but the soul. Days passed, and the details were arranged like pieces of a puzzle. Donna was introduced to the team of doctors. He received discreet visits from neighbors, some of whom had been distant before, now curious. The nurses smiled when they saw her with Tyler on her lap, laughing as if the whole world was all about the smell of cake in the oven and the sound of toys scattered around. But what was most surprising was the serenity with which she continued her routine. Even with the recognition, with the invitations to interviews and tributes, Donna continued to make her own bed, tend to the flowers on the porch, and read her Bible every morning. The light blue uniform had been replaced by light clothes, but the look, that look of someone who has seen the world below, was still there, steadfast, silent, strong. And if there's one thing we learn from stories like this, it's that sometimes what seemed like the end is just the beginning. Maybe you're listening to all this and wondering, will my life ever change too? Will someone like me also find a place in the world? And I tell you, don't give up, Because when all seems lost, that's when God begins to silently sow the miracle. Even with the new routine, Donna felt that there was still something that needed to be understood, something that Amanda wanted to reveal beyond the words she wrote. In the middle of the letter, a passage seemed vague, incomplete. A quick mention of a name Donna didn't recognize. She spent the night rereading each paragraph, as if looking for a clue hidden between the lines. The next morning, while walking with Tyler through the garden, something caught his attention. A statuette in the corner of the flower bed, the same one Amanda mentioned in a loose phrase in the recording. It was just a decorative piece for others. But for Donna, in that instant, it became a whisper of the past. There was something there. Something that had not yet been revealed. What if Amanda had left more than a letter and a recording? What if the last secret was still hidden, waiting to be discovered? The studio lights were softer than Donna had imagined. In the center of the stage, she sat with her hands in her lap, dressed with simplicity and dignity. The navy blue dress, borrowed by the production, still had the label hanging inside, but she made sure to keep her shoes flat, the same ones she wore to work. In the audience, absolute silence. The presenter, known for interviewing big names in politics and entertainment, now looked at that ordinary woman as if she were in front of a living legend. Donna took a deep breath as the microphone was positioned on her lapel. It was his turn to speak, not about scandals, not about figures, not even about justice, but about invisibility. Sometimes, all we want is to be seen, not out of pity, but out of respect. The phrase hung in the air like a prayer. People like me enter many homes without ever being heard. He sees what no one sees. He feels what no one else feels. But when we talk, it seems that the whole room is mute, like now. Discreet tears ran down the faces of two women in the front row. Humiliating those who clean your house doesn't make you greater, it just makes you smaller. The audience erupted in applause, but Donna remained there, serene, as if she was still in uniform, waiting for the bucket to fill. In the following days, the video of the interview went viral. It was not the gossip portals that shared the most, but pages of teachers, nurses, day laborers, and single mothers. Underneath, the comments said, "This woman spoke for me. My mother is just like her. I was so moved." Invitations began to arrive from all corners. Public schools wanted her to talk to their students. Community centers asked for lectures. Children sent letters with drawings of houses where Donna held Tyler's hand, smiling. A Westchester University offered a full scholarship, social assistance course, professional retraining, recognized diploma, all paid for. She read the letter sitting on the porch of her new home, with Tyler playing on the carpet. He smiled gratefully, but answered from the heart. "I really thank you, but I've already found my place, and my value does not depend on a diploma. My place is where I can protect those in need." The reporters did not understand. Why not enjoy the fame? Why not publish a book? Why not accept the sponsorships? And Donna just replied sweetly, "Because what I really wanted was peace, and now I do." Peace for her was in making Tyler breakfast, singing softly while sweeping the sidewalk, and praying every night with the light low and her feet on the ground. Peace was in being recognized not by television, but by the eyes of a child who felt safe in her lap. Peace was in being able to say no and be respected for it. One of the most emotional moments was when, while visiting a school in the Bronx, a 9-year-old girl raised her hand and asked, "Miss Donna, when you were little, did you know you were going to be a hero?" And she replied with a smile, "I just wanted to survive, my love. But God had other plans." In the midst of all this, a team of documentary filmmakers began to record discreet material, with the promise of not turning his story into a spectacle. And Donna, touched by their sensitivity, accepted. But he imposed a condition: that the documentary be shown first to communities of cleaners, janitors, cooks, people like her, that they saw themselves on the screen and knew, we are also important. There are things that we live and keep, but maybe by telling, we help another heart to breathe. Enjoy this video and subscribe, and let's make this story reach those who need it. And while the country was moved, shared, wrote articles and commissioned tributes, Donna still felt a whisper in her soul, that figurine in the garden, that phrase loose on Amanda's tape. There was a part of the story that had not yet been told, something that might change everything, again. Because what if Amanda had left more than an inheritance and a confession? What if there was something buried there that still needed to be revealed? The rain fell thinly on the stained glass windows of the playroom, drawing crooked rivers in the windows, as if the sky also had something to say that morning. Inside, the silent toys seemed to keep a secret, as if they knew that this was the same space where, months ago, a wig on the floor started a silent revolution. Donna entered barefoot, her natural hair already growing little by little, covered only by a flowered scarf. Charles was standing next to Tyler's wooden horse, holding a small black box with trembling hands. There were no violins, no photographer's flashes, no fairy tale protocols. Just him, she and the memory of the boy who brought them together, and the woman who, even dead, led them to the truth. Charles took a deep breath, his eyes teary, and said, "I'm not asking you to forget everything you've experienced. I'm asking you to live what can still be beautiful with me." Donna felt time stop. His heart, tired of so many struggles, wanted to doubt. But the soul recognized something true there. She came over, touched his face with the same hand that had been cleaning floors for decades, and said in a low voice, "Only if it's with faith." The following week, the mansion's garden was filled with hand-picked wildflowers. Enrique, the gardener, took care of every detail with tears in his eyes. The ceremony was small, but loaded with meaning. Tyler walked in a light grey suit, tripping over the petals, laughing out loud, carrying a cushion with 2 gold wedding rings. He still didn't understand the size of that moment, but when he saw Donna, he smiled and ran to her, hugging her legs tightly. "Mommy Donna is beautiful," she said matter-of-factly, as if that title had been hers for a long time. Charles and Donna exchanged simple vows. They promised respect, presence and silence when necessary. They promised to walk together, not as prince and commoner, but as 2 survivors of different wars who decided to build peace together. The kiss was shy but deep, as someone who knows that loving after pain requires courage. And there, under a century-old oak tree, the cleaning lady and the millionaire sealed a union that neither of them imagined living. The guests, few and intimate, applauded in silence, respecting the moment as if watching a miracle. Later, on the porch, where so many conversations had changed the course of history, Donna sat with a bouquet of daisies on her lap and looked up at the horizon. It wasn't about luxury, nor about status. It was about something rarer, being loved without having to explain yourself. And yet, even though she was wrapped in so much peace, there was something in her chest that still pulsated differently, a mild but persistent restlessness. Because days before, while rearranging an old bookcase in Amanda's office, Donna found something that was not in the inventories. A leather-bound notebook, hidden behind legal books, with handwritten pages, and a signed name at the end, Evelyn Thornhill, Charles's mother, a name that no one mentioned, a name that was now returning with the weight of a buried past. But why? And why would Amanda keep something from her mother-in-law an absolute secret? Donna knew that before she ended that cycle, there was still a truth waiting to be revealed. One last key, one last whisper of the story that wanted to be heard, and she was ready to listen. The afternoon sun poured softly over the garden of Thornhill Manor, tinging the lawn where Tyler ran, laughing, with a toy airplane in his hands. The gentle breeze swayed the flowers Enrique had just planted, and the faint sound of the wind mingled with the rustle of the pages Donna read, sitting in her wooden chair, now healed, now whole, no jewel around his neck, no prestigious title, but in his eyes there was the peace of those who survived the contempt without losing their sweetness. Around her there were no more walls of silence, just the warmth of a house where she was finally seen. Tyler would shout, "Look, Mummy!" And she would smile, with that kind of smile that you only learn after crossing the valley of humiliation. She didn't have to scream to be heard, nor to step on anyone to be lifted up. It was enough to remain firm, with faith, dignity, and a clean heart. Because sometimes true power lives where the world least looks. This story reminds us that courage has no uniform, that justice is done when the truth finds someone who does not give up, and that faith, even wounded, is capable of starting over. That no one at all, should be measured by the place where they are, but by the greatness with which they walk. And if you've stayed here until now, with a heavy heart and teary eyes, thank you. His company made this story even more sense. Leave a like, which is like a hug for us to keep telling stories like this. Subscribe to the channel. It's our way of inviting you to the next coffee. And comment there from which city you are watching. We want to feel you closer. It activates the bell too, so you don't lose it when the coffee is ironed again, because there are still so many stories like Donna's, stories of cleaning women that the world does not see, but who change destinies with the love they carry. Don't go away yet. Listen to the next true story that will appear on the screen. Always remember, each story carries a strength. Watch the next video here on the channel with another incredible story.